Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, the House prosecution set to submit today the certification asked by the Senate Impeachment Court on their complaint against VP Sara Duterte. President Bongbong Marcos says the war in the Middle East has no significant impact on the Philippine economy. U.S. President Donald Trump berates Israel and Iran for violating a ceasefire. And OT4 complete. Blackpink shares their first group photo ahead of their world tour.
Vice President Sara Duterte be dismissed.
Thanks for joining us. The House prosecution set to submit today the certification asked by the Senate Impeachment Court on their complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Senators earlier remanded the articles of impeachment so the lower chamber can address alleged constitutional issues in the complaint. On Billionaire News Channel's On Point, prosecution spokesperson Attorney Antonio Bujoy says they will attach the House resolution which affirms that the impeachment proceedings were constitutional.
If I may add, again, if I may add, you need not ask the lower house if they are affirming the prosecution of the pursuing the articles of impeachment. The House had already finished their constitutional duty
when they forwarded the articles
when
of
they
impeachment
transmitted
to the
the articles. There is no such thing as withdrawing it.
On Friday, Bujoy says they will also file a reply to Duterte's response to the summons of the impeachment court, after which the House prosecution will immediately ask the court to set the date for the pre-trial. Bujoy also says they will talk to the ombudsman about his order for the vice president to answer allegations of misuse of confidential funds.
The impeachment court had already assumed jurisdiction, so he should now desist.
Hands off.
Correct. This has never been done with an impeachable officer. This is the first time. We're treading through unexplored territory here. This is all a first.
Fresh from her trip to Australia, Vice President Sara Duterte joins a Pride Month event in San Fernando, Pampanga. Let's get the details from Joan Manalo, who's monitoring developments there. Joan.
By a day after her return to the Philippines, Vice President Sara Duterte is here in San Fernando, Pampanga for an event organized by the Office of the Vice President in celebration of Pride Month. The event, titled Kasarilayaan 2025, is an annual initiative of the OVP that honors the triumphs and contributions of the LGBTQ+ community. VP Sara arrived at the venue around 10:30 this morning, accompanied by former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who currently sits as Pampanga's 2nd District Representative. Arroyo, who is also a well-known ally of VP Sara and the Duterte family, expressed solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community. In her welcome remarks, she emphasized that while significant strides have been made, the struggle for equality and recognition for the LGBTQ+ community continues. Today's event marks VP Sara's first public appearance in the Philippines since her personal trip to Australia. Bye.
Joan, now that she's home, has the Vice President made new statements on the issues that she's facing?
Today not yet, but later she is expected to hold a press conference where she will hopefully address issues concerning her office. Mai.
Thank you, Joan Manalo, reporting from San Fernando, Pampanga. A day after inspecting billions of pesos worth of seized illegal drugs at PDEA's headquarters, President Marcos leads its destruction in Capas, Tarlac. Ivy Reyes is there. She joins us now live for the details. Ivy, go ahead.
Mai, as you can see behind me, this incinerator is running and is loaded with over 1.5 tons of illegal substances worth 9.48 billion pesos. Here at Clean Leaf International, a waste management company, President Bongbong Marcos led the destruction of shabu, liquid shabu, marijuana, ecstasy, cocaine, lidocaine, and expired medicines. Destroyed at 1,000 degrees centigrade, PIDEA will have to sit out the standard 10-hour incineration to confirm that the drugs are fully destroyed. Chemists from PIDEA are also present to test the substances before and after the incineration. The Philippine Navy earlier said that the plastic packs bore Chinese markings, leading them to allege that the Chinese are on a mission to destroy Filipino youth. Meanwhile, in media, President Bongbong Marcos clarified that the government subsidy for the transport sector, amounting to 2.5 billion pesos, would only be activated if oil prices breach the $80 mark. The president also believes that the country's economic state remains manageable. They, however, are monitoring the prices of basic commodities because, according to the president, oil prices aren't going up that much, so why the price hike? Mai.
Ivy, did the president expound on the need to monitor prices and what specifically are they looking after?
Well, according to the president, they have observed instances of price gouging or the act of some businesses or some people taking advantage of a situation like this conflict between Israel and Iran. So the president's economic team has yet to address this. Mai.
Ivy Reyes there, thank you. Reporting to us live from Capas, Tarlac. The Philippines needs a strategic petroleum reserve as soon as possible to protect against global oil supply shocks. That's according to Camarines Sur 2nd District Representative El Rey Villafuerte. On Billionaire News Channel's Business 360, Villafuerte said he is proposing a 90-day stockpile estimated to cost up to $4 billion. Should there be budget constraints, he said the reserve could be built gradually over 3 to 5 years to buffer against geopolitical risks and price volatility. Villafuerte also argued the reserve could be used even in peacetime.
When price of oil are high, we don't need to buy so much because we have a reserve. When price of oil has gone down or low, we buy to increase reserves. It will not only cushion impact on disruptions, it can be a strategy for lowering price of oil when prices are high.
He says Malacanang can immediately act through an executive order while Congress works on supporting legislation to fund and implement the plan. Villafuerte emphasized that there's no perfect time to start but now.
If you're saying that the price of oil is very high now, it will take easily a year, 12 to 18 months to set up a reserve anyway. All we need is really the political will and the commitment to do this.
Amid rising fuel costs, authorities are checking on the quality and quantity of gasoline at the pump. Paulo Barcelon is on the scene for us at a gas station in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig for the latest. So, Paulo, any chance motorists could see a possible rollback next week?
Mai, that will depend upon events in the Middle East if tensions there subside quickly. Now, according to Oil Industry Management Bureau Chief Rino Abad, should world oil prices stabilize at below $70 per barrel, then motorists can expect price drops on fuel as early as next week.
Kung bumagsak man ang presyo ngayon, week, sigurado tayo next week, maka immediate din ang impact kaagad. So, just a little bit of delay lang, pero mangyayari yung pag-rollback. Kung magkaka-rollback tayo. Yun nga lang, mangyayari next week sa Tuesday.
Meantime, motorists and drivers we talked to say they're either filling up early or trying to save on fuel amid the high costs of gasoline.
Nagpakarga kasi ako ngayon dahil fuel price increase na. So, inagahan ko na. Dahil mamayang gabi, mas mahaba pa pila.
Personally, of course, hindi ako nag-idle ng car. So, yun ang ginagawa ko.
Pag wala kaming biyahe, talagang pinapatay na lang po namin yung bus. At saka yung aircon hanggat hindi kailangan, ginagamit, ina-off din po namin.
Meantime, Energy Officer in charge Sharon Garin led the inspection of gasoline stations here in Taguig City, where pumps are checked for the proper amount and quality of fuel dispensed to customers. She says there are available funds for fuel subsidies for the transport and agriculture sectors.
We have allotted, I think Congress has allotted 2.5 billion, and then for the farmers, for the Department of Agriculture, around mga 600 million din yan. May additional pa ngayon kasi may hindi naubos yung previous years.
Now, the DOTR and the DA have yet to release specific guidelines for their fuel subsidy programs. But according to initial information we got from the DOTR over the last few days, at least for the PUV drivers, they will be part of the priority for the subsidy program, as well as fisher folk and farmers who depend on tractors as well as other agricultural equipment. Mai?
Paulo, since the situation in the Middle East remains volatile, what are the DOE's plans to alleviate concerns and also to cushion the impact of high prices?
Well, one, Mai, is the regular inspection and checking of gasoline stations. They warn these stations that they can face stiff penalties if they try to cheat on customers, either in terms of the amount of fuel that is indicated on the pump or through the quality of the fuel that they provide to customers. Now, another option, Mai, is to try and talk to oil players and find out what their game is. Although actually earlier, Secretary Garin thanked the oil companies for their cooperation in trying to at least reduce the impact of the high prices of gasoline towards motorists, because according to Secretary Garin, the President has instructed her to try and find ways to mitigate the impact of these towards customers. But again, we're still waiting on what is going to happen in the Middle East, as the Philippines relies heavily on crude from the Middle East for its oil supplies. Mai?
Thanks, Paulo. Paulo Barcelon there, live from BGC in Taguig. They're finally home. The first batch of Filipino repatriates affected by the war in the Middle East has returned to the Philippines. More are expected to arrive in the coming weeks. Paulo Barcelon returns with the details.
31 Filipinos from the Middle East came back home Tuesday night. This after a 9-hour-long delay due to the closure of Qatar's airspace following an Iranian missile attack targeting U.S. bases in the country. Among those stranded, Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak, who oversaw repatriation operations from the Israeli-Jordanian border. Of the 31 returnees, 26 were caregivers and hotel staff who came from Israel. They include Armando Naz, who went back to the Philippines after working in a hotel in Israel for more than 2 years. He says the June 13 attacks was more than he and his partner can bear.
Sa loob ng isang araw, 5 alarms, 4 alarms, ano na yun. Kahimbingan ng tulog mo, mag-a-alarm, bababa ka na naman, pusaakyat ka na naman. Pag ikaw na nakatira sa 7th floor, bababa ka to shelter, so pagod at puyat ang kalaban mo.
One repatriate was attended to by health department personnel and is recovering. Also among the flight are repatriates from Jordan, Qatar, and Palestine. Secretary Kakdak says the agency is closely monitoring the situation on whether or not to expand current deployment bans to other countries in the Middle East amid rising tensions.
The expertise belongs to the DFA along those lines, so we will have to await the alert level notices, the raising of alert level or lowering of alert levels or maintenance of an alert level.
Repatriates will receive 150,000 pesos worth of cash aid from the DMW and the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, and an additional 10,000 pesos from the Social Welfare Department. Kakdak adds, chartered flights to ferry more OFWs home are also being considered.
That is always an option. We did that with Lebanon last year. Ando na naman kami ni SecTed at ni Yusek Pinky last October for the chartered flight of nearly 300 in one plane.
The DMW adds over 300 OFWs have already signed up to go back to the Philippines, with more batches of repatriates expected to return in the coming days and weeks. Paulo Barcelon, Billionario News Channel.
U.S. President Donald Trump not happy with Israel for launching attacks on Iran despite a truce. Israel defends the offensive, saying it was in response to missiles fired by Tehran. But Iran denies this.
This these guys got to calm down. Ridiculous.
How will you respond if the ceasefire is violated?
I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot.
Iran accuses Israel of continuing to violate the ceasefire to end the 12-day war and has threatened to retaliate if the attacks continue. But Trump is berating both sides.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
In other news, the prosecution and defense rest their case in the sex trafficking trial of embattled hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. In a half-hour presentation, Combs' lawyers showed text messages in which his film ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura supposedly said that she loved him. The messages also suggested Ventura enjoyed taking part in drug-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs. As for prosecutors, they insist Combs forced his girlfriends into sexual performances. More than 30 witnesses testified over nearly 7 weeks in Manhattan. The jury is not expected to begin deliberating until late Friday or Monday. Combs faces life behind bars if convicted on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. High-profile guests have begun arriving in Venice for the much-awaited wedding of tech billionaire Jeff Bezos and journalist Lauren Sanchez. Among them, President Donald Trump's daughter Ivanka. She was seen checking into a luxury hotel along with her husband, businessman Jared Kushner, and their children. Some 200 guests are expected to attend the so-called wedding of the century. The exact dates and locations are being kept confidential, but celebrations are expected to play out between June 26 and 28. Bezos and Sanchez went public with their relationship in 2019 and were engaged in 2023. Still to come, the champs, the Oklahoma City Thunder, hold a victory parade. That and more when Newsfeed at noon returns. Stay with us. Senate President Cheese Escudero held a press conference to address questions on the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte. Hannah T joins us on the line for the details. Hannah, what's the latest? What did SP Cheese say?
Mai, it's clear for Senate President Cheese Escudero that charges remain with the Senate and the court still has jurisdiction. This is after Vice President Sara Duterte's answer ad cautelam said the court does not have jurisdiction because no impeachment articles were presented in the plenary, and the senator judges even voted to return the complaint back to the House on June 10. But he clarifies it's the right of the defense to answer that way. Escudero says the impeachment court will continue with the proceedings, but reminds that the House prosecutors must be re-elected first by the new Congress. The authority of the House prosecution of the 19th Congress only lasts until June 30. Without new authorization from the 20th, only one side will be present. Escudero clarifies the impeachment court may resume full operations even motu proprio or on its own initiative. He says any motion, including a motion to dismiss, can be discussed once brought up. A trial date or pre-trial date cannot be set by any party alone, whether the side of the House prosecutors or the defense. Only the Senate, through plenary action, can decide that. A simple majority is enough to decide procedural matters. In SP Cheese's words, the trial is moving. VP Sara has already responded, and the next step is to wait for the prosecutor's reply. Those are the latest here at the Senate. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Hanati. Shifting now to sports, the champs have arrived. The party is on in Oklahoma City as the Thunder celebrate their first NBA championship. Fans packed the streets despite the sizzling conditions during Tuesday's victory parade. The Thunder capped off a remarkable season by defeating the Indiana Pacers in a thrilling 7-game final series. For the man of the moment, season MVP and finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their path to the championship makes this victory even more fulfilling.
Don't ever forget this. Moments in life like this, they don't come too often. Make sure you guys enjoy this moment with your family, your friends, your loved ones. Everyone that helped you and had us get here. And don't forget who they are. Don't ever turn your back on them. Just like us as a team, just like us as a community, just like us as a city of Oklahoma. A lot of the world doesn't see it, like you said, but everybody in this arena, in this city, that has been with me for the last 6 years. They were chanting MVP when I was averaging 19 points on a 20-win team. They understand. They know exactly what it takes and what it looks like.
Yeah.
And without them, we are not this.
A familiar foe awaits Filipino tennis sensation Alex Ayala at the Eastbourne Open in the UK. The newly minted women's world number 74 will face 20th ranked and former champ Yelena Ostapenko in the round of 16 tonight. This is her final warm-up before her Wimbledon main draw debut later this month. Ayala beat Ostapenko at the Miami Open earlier this year, their only head-to-head meeting so far. In entertainment, the OT4 is complete. K-pop superstars Blackpink share their first group photo ahead of their reunion world tour. The image showed Jisoo, Rosé, Jennie, and Lisa forming a four-leaf clover with their hands. While it may not be a selfie, it still captured the excitement of Blix. Blackpink will kick off their Deadline World Tour in Goyang, South Korea next month. It includes a 2-day concert at the Philippine Arena on November 22nd and 23rd. This is the group's first tour since Born Pink wrapped up in September 2023. And before we go, the Paris Men's Fashion Week officially kicks off. Louis Vuitton Artistic Director Pharrell Williams hosted a star-studded event to unveil the brand's Spring 2026 line. Among the VIPs, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Spike Lee, and LeBron James. Pharrell showcased a quieter palette of earth tones, dusky pinks, and rich browns. With global luxury spending down 2 to 5%, Louis Vuitton is banking on celebrity glow to keep its 171-year luggage legacy's bottom line happy. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Stay with the Billionaire News Channel. Good afternoon.